Hello and welcome to round 7 of this year's Rilton Cup. I'm your host for the day, Fiona Stilantony, and I'm joined once again by international master Jonathan Westerberg. How are you today?
I'm fine. And you?
I'm good. Looking forward to the action. Things are heating up. Only 3 rounds to go. We have 5 joint leaders. The top seed, Tamir Nabati, but also Gajewski, A. Wonder Liang, Maxime Lagarde, and Gopal. So they are facing off on the top boards. We'll get to that in a second. Behind them, there's a big group of 15 players on 4.5. So all of these players still have a shot at the title, of course, and it will be interesting to see what today brings. Also, it's good to have Tiger Hillar Persson, the top-rated Swede in the tournament, back on the top 10 boards. So we'll make sure to keep an eye on his game as well. He is in the pursuer group on 4.5. So shall we go immediately to the top board?
Yes, and on the first board it's Grigor Gajewski against Tamir Nabati. Both players won their game yesterday. Nabati won a pretty, I would say, convincingly against Volkov, and Gajewski won quite easily with the black after some blunder.
We didn't even get around to look at that. He won so
the
quickly.
The game was more or less over when we started to watch it. Should we see
let's
the
see
opening
how we
from
got
the beginning?
to. I mentioned a couple of times at the start of the tournament that Gajewski is a very well prepared player because he's one of the main seconds, probably the main second these days, of Vishy Anand, who is famously one of the best prepared players out there. So he knows his stuff. And
I know that Nabati, now we have the Queen's Gambit declined, is the opening. And I know that he has been using the Queen's Gambit declined and also the Queen's Gambit accepted. So because I also try to, you try to use some different lines, but in the same opening. So, and I don't know how normal this game went, because Nabati has been using some strange lines.
Turn lines.
Even though yesterday he played quite normal game in the French. C takes d5. So this is along with knight f3 is of course also playable, but especially after knight f6, white sometimes takes on d5 compared to bishop e7 is another move. Now it's not as common to take, because you can put bishop on g5 in this case. C6, e3, and bishop d6. So what white normally wants to do is to lock in this bishop on c8. So he tries to play moves like, if I just make some normal moves like bishop e7, bishop d3, castles, and white sometimes goes with like h3, so that this bishop on c8 cannot develop. Therefore, at this moment, black has this move bishop f5 in order to develop the bishop on a proper square, and this was considered to be quite bad for black because white has this move queen f3. After bishop g6, white has the option of doubling black's pawns here. But lately this has become more or less playable at the highest level, and this endgame can be seen from time to time nowadays. But black didn't want to ruin his structure, and because in that endgame black has very very good drawing chances, but absolutely no chance of winning.
And Nabati has been playing quite ambitiously in this tournament, so not surprised to see him avoid this endgame.
Bishop d3. So white has basically 2 kinds of setup in this line. He can play, let's say, castles and h3, some rook e8, and then put the knight on f3, and then later try this minority attack with like a3 and b4, and try to create a weakness on the queen side. The other idea which I guess we see in the game now, is he played this move knight e2 instead. And the idea is to expand later in the center, rather than playing with h3, he wants to play with f3 and later e4. Knight g2, rook e8, queen c2, and when white tries to play with f3 and e4, he sometimes also castles long rather than short. So this is two completely different ideas. h6, bishop h4, b6. So b6 is not so common when white puts the knight on f3 and plays with h3. But now black realizes, of course, this idea with f3 and e4, and the best way to react if white plays with e4 is to be able to strike with c5 at the right moment. Therefore, b6 makes sense here. He wants to be able to play c5 if white goes with f3.
I was wondering, after the next move here, black played bishop b7. Is putting the bishop on a6 ever an option to try and exchange it? Or not in this line? The bishop is more useful to defend
it's always the
d5?
It's always the question in this, like when you put the bishop on b7, it looks, this bishop looks somehow like a bad piece. But if you exchange it on a6, there might also be some weak squares around the queen side. Of the b6, you no longer have control over a6 and c6. So, but I don't think this bishop is not so bad anyway, because when you play c5, you can use this bishop is defending like the center with defending the d5 pawn. So maybe this bishop is not having an open diagonal, but black can defend his big center at least. Castles, 87, b4. So his white switched idea when black put this bishop. So now he's rather playing on this minority attack. And the idea with b4 is maybe to push b5, but also to restrain black from playing c5. a5. And now he goes with b5. The problem is maybe that if, let's say, white defends the pawn with
can we play rook b1?
Yeah, but after rook b1, black can probably already take on b4, and sometimes maybe at this point you can put some extra pressure with queen e7 or something. But you also have to watch out sometimes for a move like b5. If black is able to transfer the knight to c4, it's quite annoying. But you can also sometimes it's also okay to take on a5, and after rook takes to play a move like a4. And this is also acceptable way of handling this a5 move. But b5 is most principal, and when white plays c5, b5, black must react with c5 now, in order not to get any weaknesses. So if white ever takes on c5, black will take with the pawn, of course, and white and this two hanging pawns are quite strong now. It's not so easy to attack them.
And it doesn't matter that there is a passed pawn on b5.
And this passed pawn on b5, it's
easily blocked.
Yeah, it's only like in the king endgame where you will win. But it's not out of the question to take, but you can wait for quite some time, and you want to take at the right moment. And black played this move c4. I think when we started the broadcast, this was the position. So I was not sure if black was going to play c4.
He spent a long time. He spent almost 18 minutes on this move.
It's far from obvious that c4 is, because white is probably not gonna take in the next move, but let's say black plays a move like rook c8 is normal, of course, but I guess a move like bishop f5 or something can be a little bit annoying, because you're already maybe threatening to take on d7, or now maybe you can take on c5 sometimes, and d5 will be hanging, so he wants to release the pressure, but c4 also means that this bishop is quite bad on b7.
I guess the bishop will have to go back to c8 eventually, and then try and reactivate along that other diagonal.
Okay, so he threw in a check first before playing bishop f5.
So deciding that it's preferable for him if the black king is on h8.
Yeah, it's quite a normal like maneuver, because the king is slightly worse on h8. It's not weak on g8 or on h8, but sometimes, you know, this pawn f7 is unprotected, and in some endgames the king is one square further away from the center. So it's almost always good to include a check like this.
And knight f8.
Yeah.
And that is the position we have on the board at the moment.
So
how do we assess this, especially the pawn structure on the queen side? What do you make of it?
This as long as white needs to keep some control here, like the knight on c3 is like a good blockader, and it has influence over d5 and e4. But white, I mean, white, to my eyes, white's position is more stable in a way. But the question is what is the plan for what is really the plan for white, because normally when black has this kind of center, you want to maybe break with e4, but if you break with e4, this bishop is suddenly coming to life, and white maybe is left with some isolated pawn on d4. But I guess a move like white will probably eventually have to play this move a4 also, because he cannot defend it with a rook, so he will have to play a4.
But long term, what is White's plan?
Of course he would like to play with f3 and e4, but the problem is that the pieces, I mean, e3 is not protected right now, and if you push with the e4, this bishop on black may always have some counter shot against these pieces, because they look too strange right now. But
yeah, it looks like this opening has gone quite well. And I guess Nabati will be quite happy with the position.
Yeah, it's play for both sides, I would say, and probably roughly equal. But it's
which is probably what he wanted. Yeah, I guess.
But there is some. It's not a balanced position. I would say it's chances for both sides.
Okay, so we're looking at an interesting struggle here. We'll come back to it a bit later. Let's go to board 2. A Wonder Liang against Maxime Lagarde. A Wonder Liang, who yesterday had a bit of a scare, I would say, against young Pranav Anand from India. Missed this nice knight c5 shot in the opening, but still managed to.
Yeah, with the correct play, it would probably have cost him an exchange without any compensation. Yeah. But now he managed to get compensation and then win the game eventually. So, and he has
today he's playing against Lagarde, who also escaped, who also had quite a lucky. I'm not sure about lucky, but who had an escape. I mean, his position looked pretty terrible against Gopal.
And they were in a mutual time trouble. So he managed to secure the draw just in time.
I wonder if Lagarde has some sort of issue. I'm just looking at the time situation, and we had Ezra here yesterday, International Master Ezra Kirk from England, who is very good friends with Maxime, and he said usually Maxime plays quite quickly, but it seems that in this tournament he's been low on time in pretty much every game I've seen. and I think we've seen all of his games. But okay, let's see. Let's take the game from the beginning, I think, and see
it was,
how we got here.
It's the accelerated dragon. They transposed from f3 was knight f3 was the first move, but they transposed into accelerated dragon with e4. And he played this move knight g4, which is not it's not the main move in the position, but and queen d1. And here he played this move e5, which is not the most common. If I can recall, I guess knight e6 is also a move at this in this position with some. This is a completely different way of playing, but let's say queen d2 and black plays something like queen a5, rook c1, and something with the d6. And this knight on e6, you use it like if white plays with bishop e2 later, you will also play with g5 and h5 and something with queen e5. So it's but this so e5, and it looks like the position later also resembles of some kind of Sicilian strange. But this line, I guess it's considered to be better for white, theoretically. 2 b6. Okay, d1. Should be so this knight on d4, it's a little bit annoying for white. I guess if you just take it, it won't give white any an advantage, but you may want to try to undermine the knight with a move like f4, for example.
Or even the move, he played bishop e1. I'm wondering if at some point I can play knight e2 or and then play against the backward pawn on d6 somehow.
Yes. Anyway, sorry. And this is the position now after queen d7. So
I think we need to go back just a bit more. So.
Yeah, you can play knight e2 if you want to. And I guess black needs to take, but maybe black, I'm not sure, maybe you're in time to play with f5 here. And this may give, black has some counterplay now. This is not so much of a weakness.
Yeah.
And this is, I guess, the plan for black is to try to play with f5 anyway.
So what if I go knight d5 instead?
Yeah. Can I play with f5 anyway? Maybe
I was wondering if I can ever meet f5 with f4 somehow.
Yep. Yes. Yes, you can. Probably you can. This is quite unclear because nobody really wants to take. But somehow I like white more because the white king is slightly safer than the black king. This bishop on b1 cannot be opposed, but this knight on d5 stops the bishop on b7. And the bishop on g7 is not in that attack, so to say.
Can black ever try to undermine somehow? Can I sometimes, as black, play with b5?
Yes, that's another idea. Yes, you can also play with b5, but.
So interesting. White decided to take on d4.
So he's trying to win, force the game a little bit and win some material. Maybe he can win a pawn actually. And black should try to get counterplay now. quite. I guess knight
B5.
b5 is the most critical here. But you have to. You can try to win the e4 pawn also, maybe. What do you do here?
Maybe Lagarde is going to find himself in some sort of reversed situation from yesterday, because yesterday he was the one with the pawn up, but suffering.
Yeah, he got inspired
yeah.
by his opponent from yesterday, but
it looks like his opponent had a lot more counterplay than he does here, I guess, at least at first sight.
Yeah, I'm not sure how, because of the knight b5. How do you can, I mean, you can attack the e4 pawn, but I guess I can always protect it and then take d4. So I mean, you can maybe claim some long-term compensation with the bishop here, but I want to find something more concrete also.
Is f5?
Yeah, but f5 I will
simply take it.
I will take it, and then the black king is not completely safe. After knight takes d4, for example.
Okay, I'll play f4.
Yeah, but you're already almost mated now after queen.
That's a good point.
So, I mean, black is trying to attack, but it's his own king that's getting weak.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I prefer white until black has proved his compensation.
It's going to be interesting. Okay, we'll come back to this one a bit later. And finally, the last player on 5 out of 6 is Gopal, who's white against Alexander Donchenko.
This looks like it came from a Caro-Kann. Yes, the advanced variation in Caro-Kann. So black has the French structure, but he's not stuck with this bad bishop on c8. And these variations are quite fashionable nowadays to play the advanced variation. But this is not so common to have this structure with the f takes g6 now.
Yeah, let's maybe just go back a few moves and see how we got this structure.
So this is, I guess, quite normal.
Bishop.
Knight f5.
So black was happy to get the structure because he could have.
Yeah, this
avoided it quite easily.
Structurally wise, it's maybe not optimal because you want, of course, to have influence in the center. But when you take on g6, you can also get some chances maybe on the white king. Let's say I play just what kind of waiting move. If I can castle short, now I have the half open f file, and like in these positions before, white's idea is often to open the position with f4 or something, but when you take with f takes g6, it's not so appealing for white to open the king side anymore, because you will always take with the g pawn, and you still have 2 pawns there. So actually, I see that the bar prefers white, but these kinds of positions I know much easier to handle with black.
Would you say that it's a kind of position that the computer doesn't necessarily understand very well?
Maybe it might be one of those positions that the computer evaluates as better for white, but then it plays some pointless moves like move around, and doesn't, because it's hard. I cannot really see what the idea is for white here. You cannot really take c5, I guess, because e5 is hanging, and e3 you can also take. What do you do with white?
I was wondering if you have time to play g3 and f4 somehow, but
if you play g3, I'm gonna castle short. You cannot play f4 because the bishop is hanging, and but even if you
I guess I don't want to create that hole.
you're opening up for your own king also. So I prefer actually I prefer black here. Also because I mean the pawns are fixed on the dark squares, which means that black has the better bishop also. The only there is, I mean, this knight on d7 is not such a good piece because it has no, from d7 it has no future. But I think black will have enough time even to regroup it via b8 to c6 later.
Yeah.
So it's not such a big deal. But from d7 it cannot go to c5, it cannot go to e5 or f6 or even b6 is covered. So and from f8 it can only come to h7 and then it can't get any further. So that's a plan for later to regroup this knight. But for now I just want to, with black I want to castle, maybe double on the f file. Later I will push c4 and then regroup the knight, or even some sacrifice on e5. So yeah, I have many ideas for black but none for white.
Meanwhile, well, white has played knight f3.
Yeah, knight f3, which
where is this knight going?
It's not going anywhere else. But maybe if I castle here, this may be an idea to sacrifice on g5, just to get some play. But I don't really believe that
Looks
this
very
is
optimistic.
yes, it's not enough. But you can a knight f3. I don't really like so much actually.
Even the bar seems to have gone down a bit.
Because black can I mean black can castle, but you can also I don't know if you want to go you can also maybe go c4 first, and if knight c5 is not good, if you're gonna regroup this knight, then I have time to castle and double on the f file, and so I would say that black has I guess that black's position is even better, the best, better than white's, but it's also that he has many more ideas than white, and his positionally he's also better. So I like Donchenko's chances here.
Okay, so that's we've now had a look at the top 3 boards where the 5 leaders are playing. Shall we have a look at Tiger's game?
Yes. So if he can win today, maybe he still has a chance of winning.
Look
the
at
tournament.
his time handling again.
Yeah. It's down to 14.5 minutes after 12 moves.
It's just
And,
incredible. I mean,
this,
every single day actually.
This also looks like a position that Tiger may have played before. It cannot be so. I mean, like this position. He played
I
this.
mean, how can you even get so low on time? Where did he spend his time? The last couple of moves, he spent 25 minutes each.
I know that he has played this line before. In the Olympiad 2016, he had exactly this variation. It's some kind of he plays some kind of reversed Sicilian here. But he got surprised. When did he get surprised? Here he had still quite some time, but he spent almost 50 minutes on his last 2 moves. Queen c2, which is normal, 97, and rook c1. He also spent 25 minutes playing.
I mean, I shouldn't laugh.
Yes.
Someday we should get Tiger in the commentary room and ask him.
Ask him what he's thinking about. Yes. Okay, rook c1. I guess white. If it's white's turn again, white to move, he will play this move knight b5 in order to get the bishop pair and open up the diagonal.
But I mean, it's not fun. Like, I mean, you're now 1.5 hours into the game, and 13 minutes for 28 moves is already like a serious issue. Like, you haven't even completed your development yet. You have a position which, at first sight looks fairly standard, especially if you say he has played this before.
And he's playing against quite, I guess it's quite the dangerous opponent. Is one of this from Iran. They have I mean, they have like a new generation now in Iran. I guess like top 10 in Iran is around the age of 18 now. And this guy is probably also around 18.
Yeah, I checked. I think he's 17.
17, yeah.
Of course, there's this Firuza.
Yes, he did really well in the Rapid and the Blitz championship now.
I think one of the big names, and of course
Magsutlu.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's close to 2,700 now. So.
Yeah. Actually, last night we were having, we met up with our friend Stefan, who's good friends with Ivan Sokolov, who's in Iran these days training them. So I think there was a reason they have all these guys coming up, because I think the Iranian Federation is quite
everybody, they are improving together.
Yeah. And a lot of means are being put into, providing all these up-and-coming players the best possible opportunities.
Yeah. So it's quite a serious player, and Tiger may need his time.
Yeah.
So, but he's after
played Queen E7 to avoid this knight B5.
And I don't know if we should expect Tiger to use all of his time now.
How much of it is he gonna use of his remaining?
Yeah. He's gonna use everything to play D3 now. So Queen E7, I guess the...
Where do you put the white bishop? Do you put it on C4? Do you put it on E2?
Yeah, that's... you can actually put it on E2, C4, D3.
A lot of things to consider for Tiger.
There's one thing in White's position that's not so stable, and it's this move A5 that Black can play at right moment, and the White pawns on the Queen side are slightly vulnerable actually. It's not so easy to defend this B4 pawn. Otherwise, White has some quite good squares on E4 and on F5, so you can. But I guess that Tiger is quite interesting player, and I guess his idea is mainly not to castle so quickly. He wants to play something like bishop C4. He also because the question is if E4 is probably, I don't think it's playable at this moment. Or maybe this, because this knight F5. This now it becomes very, very concrete. So. But actually, I always like this kind of positions for White. But if you know how to handle them with Black, it can also backfire.
And really, you just need some time. Like you cannot play these positions. I know Tiger is of course a very strong grandmaster, but it's just ridiculous to have under 10 minutes on the clock for 28 moves.
Something like, maybe not D3, because you want to have, let's say, after bishop E2 and knight F8 or something. You want to have this move knight F5 and grab the bishop here.
I don't remember actually if it was you or if it was Ulf earlier in the tournament who said that the problem is that Tiger loves chess too much.
Like I said it yesterday. Yeah, he likes chess too much, so he doesn't really. It's not that he is trying to find necessarily the best moves, but he wants to find the most interesting moves. What's the most interesting move?
Okay, let's leave this one. We'll come back to it. I think I will keep an eye on it on this computer on this game and see. Yeah,
they have played 12 moves, and Tiger has 8.5 minutes till the time control. So you will have to
speed up.
Speed up a little bit.
Can we go? I would like to see the game, if possible, of Jesper Thibault.
Yes.
Who's playing against Murali Kartikeyan.
And Jesper is doing some progress. He's also, I don't know how old he is, if he's 18 or something now.
I think last year he was under 18 European champion.
Yes, because there were two Danish players who won.
Him and Jonas Bjerre.
Yeah, they won they won their group in the youth.
It was a huge success, of course, for the Danish chess.
Yeah.
Can we take it from the beginning?
Yes, let's see the opening. And they played King's Indian defense, and I think Kartikeyan used King's Indian earlier in the tournament, maybe 2 rounds ago. Castles, knight c6. So we see, yeah, it's the absolute main line of the King's Indian. And b4, which is called the bayonet attack, in Swedish at least.
I think it's also called that. Are you a King's Indian player?
No.
I asked you yesterday about the Grunfeld. Surely, every day, if I can eliminate one more,
I'm trying to learn these names so I can sound. So it sounds like.
Yeah.
But I never played this position.
So what do you play against d4?
Normally the Queen's Gambit, or Queen's Gambit accepted, or the Nimzo Indian.
Okay.
This is too unbalanced for my style.
And as white, are you an e4, d4 player?
Yeah, it depends.
Okay.
If they play the King's Indian, I'm not
not a d4.
not a d4 player.
I see.
But yeah, we saw this structure yesterday in the game between Anand, Anand the Younger, and Avonder Liang, but it arose from some Spanish or Roy Lopez, and they had exchanged. The difference was that they had exchanged this light squared bishops, which is quite favorable for white, because there are no. This bishop on c8 can sometimes be useful in some later sacrifices. But he used this. Now he played this move b4, but we saw that Anand used another idea with knight e1 to d3, and then later he secured the center with f3. But all white has many moves in these positions, but they are all connected with playing this move c5, and also to secure the king side. So b4, the obvious idea is to play c5. Knight h5. Like the drawback with playing b4 this early is that after, for example, a5, you cannot keep these pawns because the rook on a1 is en prise, which means that after a5 you have to take now on a5, which, I mean, to someone who haven't seen this position before, it looks like white have created some weaknesses now. Like he gave up the square on c5, but as it turns out, I guess a4 is the move now. White has enough resources to open the queen side anyway, with moves like bishop a3, and then if black secures with b6, you will play bishop b4 and then push with a5, and you will be able to play c5. And what people have found out is that the move a5, which positionally is correct, but it actually helps white to open the queen side. So it takes longer time for white to open if black doesn't move any pawns.
Okay.
Therefore he goes knight h5, and he wants to deliver checkmate. He wants to play with f5 now. Even though, yeah, at this moment f5 is actually playable, just because the knight on c3 is en prise. Let's say I play c5. F5 is actually playable.
Well, even in the game it appeared on the board after. Because
the tactic white may have is that after g takes f5,
you need to look out for knight e5.
You should watch out for this. But right now, the knight on c3 is also en prise. Therefore, if you protect the knight on c3 now, f5 is maybe not playable. What did he do? He played g3. The other idea black may have, let's say I play a move like queen c2, or something better, queen b3 maybe. Black may also have an idea to go to f4 anyway, and when you're forced to take it, you have this bishop on g7 is now alive. There are some weak black squares, and black still has the idea of, let's say I play rook d1, expanding on the king side anyway with the move like h6, and then g5, and then maybe g4, and he can also play f5 later. So it's this knight f4 is also something to watch out for, and therefore he goes with g3. And now he went with f5, yes. And I guess this is probably still theory.
Yeah, actually, I think all the moves were
yeah.
played instantly up until
Yeah.
rook b8, and then that was the first moment when white paused to think.
So this white will at some point play this move knight e6. After knight e6, it's extremely important what's happening after the knight jumps to e6. If white can keep the pawn on e6 and like open the center, then the white position should be better. But maybe black can also try to surround the pawn on e6. Rook b8. Rook b8 is, I guess, just to protect the pawn on b7. Is the idea with rook b8.
Sorry, I was getting sidetracked because I still have the Tiger game open, and it looks like there might be good news. It looks like the chess24 clocks might have been completely off, because Tiger's time was ticking down to under 3 minutes, and then he made a move and it jumped up to 28 minutes. So it could have been that the time was just off.
Even if he has 28 minutes, he has spent a lot of time anyway.
But it's better than 3 minutes.
Bishop a. We can just see what. So he had to play knight e6, queen c8. So like this position is extremely crucial now for what's gonna happen in the game. Knight d5. Yes. So knight d5. You cannot accept this pawn on e6 to be protected by another pawn. Therefore, it takes on e6. Knight takes c7. Queen d7. Actually, I have like a feeling that I have seen almost this position before, but there are probably some slight difference with the rook on b8 or something. But black did win a pawn now on e4, right?
Yeah, it seems like something has
something went wrong for Jesper. Maybe you can also take on f5 first. This is why I don't play the kings in the because now black wins a pawn, and it's not obvious to me where the compensation is. Okay, knight f5, so he protects the pawn, but he can also jump to d4 later. Rook e1. c8. Knight c3. But okay, so now the question is if can you take one more pawn?
I like to take pawns. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, maybe it's possible to take. You do because now you're 2 pawns down. You can of course get back the pawn on e4 if you want.
Yeah, let's have a look at that. Knight takes e4.
Yeah, and you can take here because after queen d5 you still have queen f7. So you can take here, and now you will probably move the king in order not to. You cannot accept the check, so you go. Maybe it's safe on h8, but this is like still a pawn for black, and this bishop on a3 looks strange now. This must be really good for black, I guess. So knight c3. Yeah, you can take, but you can maybe you have something else also.
What happens?
But it's it's you want to take because you can you get this pawn on c4, which is white's last pawn in the center, but also that the rook gets active. So
yeah, I guess he will take unless there is a very tempting alternative.
Yeah, it should be something with e3
Yeah, well,
first.
that's what I was gonna ask. But do you want to really open that bishop?
No, you don't really want to open the bishop. But the white king, I don't know if you can. If you can play e3, I don't know if you can. Maybe you can take here also, because after bishop d5 you can still trade, and you still have queen f7 here. So e3 is
queen b3 weaving.
Yeah, you can play queen b3, but you can this rook is quite easily defended. You can play with you have to play queen f7 again. Queen f7 you can play. Yeah.
And the knight is always covering d5.
Yeah. And you cannot really use the f file because e3 is hanging, and if e4 you have knight d4, and I guess black is almost ready to play d5 now also. So, but yeah, so that's the two options.
But it looks like something has gone.
Yeah, something
wrong.
has gone wrong for white here. So yeah, he's a pawn up, and the white king is also slightly more vulnerable. And this bishop on a3 looks completely stupid actually, because the bishop on a3 it's connected with this idea of playing with c5 and open up the like in the bayonet variation. And we had this position earlier, like here the bishop on a3 makes sense because you want to push with the c5, and this bishop on a3 is supposed to put some pressure on the pawn on d6. But after this concrete variation, this bishop on a3 looks completely strange.
Yeah.
So
I see your point about why you avoid
yeah,
King's
because
Indian.
because Jesper is very talented, also strong player and well prepared, but everything has gone wrong anyway.
I mean, it's just it's true that you see it so often that King's Indians games finish so quickly and so brutally on one side or the other. Like all it takes is for you to forget your preparation at one moment and the game is over, basically. Okay, let's come back to this one later. How about we both pick a game at random, whatever you want to look at?
Yeah.
We could also go down and see the games that are below.
On board, we have board 4, Mikhail Kobalya. I guess he's the second highest rated player in the tournament actually, after Nabati.
Yes.
So he's one of the favorites, and he's also just half point behind. So and there's only 3. This is the round 7, right?
Yeah. 3 rounds to go, so 2 after this.
So it's quite important for Kobalya if he can win this game now.
Yeah.
What opening was this? It was this, like Catalan. You have the normal Catalan after bishop e7, castles, and then you take on c4. But lately it's more popular to include this check on b4, and the idea is that after bishop d2 you play bishop e7, and this bishop on d2 is black at least claims that it's worse on d2 compared to c1, because you have to make 2 moves with the bishop, I mean, in order to get to b2. And they usually don't play, let's say, castles is more common, but they usually don't take on c4 after including this, but they play with c6 rather, and then play with b6 and bishop b7. Yeah, so he played c6 first, and it I guess they transpose anyway. Knight c3, but at this point he actually took on c4. because normally white may want to play with knight d2, but it's not possible now. So maybe this is like a sacrifice. A normal move would be like queen c2, but this means that the white setup is slightly more passive compared to you can play with c6 without including this, but then white will have the option of playing e4 quite easily. But we can see what happened when he took the pawn, a4, and he completely changed the game now with c5. He takes
c5, he spent 24 minutes, so again, not a decision taken lightly.
And right now black has an extra pawn, but I guess it's not possible to defend it forever. Takes rook c8. So this, it looks like a kind of normal Catalan now, but you can see the position queen b6. So the downside in white's position is maybe this pawn on a4 is not optimal, because you have dropped some control over b4 square. And this bishop on e8 is normally this bishop on, it's quite a normal maneuver actually to have the bishop on e8, but normally when you have the bishop on e8, the rook on f8 is already on d8, which means that the bishop on e8 is secured, and but all your other pieces are active. So the problem in black's position is that this rook on f8 cannot actually be developed.
Is that the reason why the computer, I guess, quite likes white here?
Yeah, the white is white's pieces are more active. I mean, this bishop on g2 is still a strong piece, but there may also sometimes be some attacking motifs against the black king. Let's say maybe queen b6. Okay. I mean, a5 would be the first move.
Let's have a look at a5.
a5. And where's the queen going now?
Can I go to b5?
Yeah, you can go to b5. And if you're really brave, you can take an e2. I wanted to play something with bishop c3. Like if I can play bishop c3. I can try to do it immediately also. But the idea is, I mean, I create maybe a threat of knight g5. And if you play knight d5, maybe I can go knight g5.
And if I am greedy?
If you want to take.
Will you punish me? I mean, I'm not sure I'm very happy taking this pawn.
Yeah, this works for white, because now I'm threatening to take on f6 and deliver checkmate. And if you protect now, let's say you play g6, can I trap the queen now with bishop f1? And the queen is actually so. But you can also start with the bishop c3. The only question is if knight g4 is not a move. F2 is still protected, so you can just play h3 here. So bishop, I like bishop c3 immediately also, because the queen on b5 can maybe help the black the defense swing over it. So I like bishop c3 more. And maybe black takes on e4 actually.
Yeah, let's have a look. Knight takes e4, queen takes.
Just in order to eliminate this threat to knight g5. But I mean, all white's pieces are well developed here.
Yeah, that bishop on e8, you really would like to have it somewhere like g6 or something and get the other rook out.
But here, I mean, it's a lot of problems for black actually. You can push a5, you Can also try to play something like h4 and h5 or knight g5, or just. So this, I mean, I really think something went wrong for black here. He should have the same position, but with the rook on d8 in order to swap off the rooks, after which the pressure is much less. Because this is quite serious advantage for white, I think.
Also quite a big advantage on the clock as well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much we can trust the times, but this does look about right. Okay, let's come back to this one as well. Can I make a request for a game I would like to see? I would like to go down. Oh, by the way, we had a draw on board 6 between Li Tian Yo and Santos Latasa.
Yeah, and this player from Malaysia, I don't think he's so interested in winning the tournament, but he's very close to making a Grandmaster norm. And that's his goal, and I think he's almost there.
Okay, so let's. So what I wanted to see is somewhere around board 17 or something. Ah, it is. Oh, it's
which
already.
Was a draw.
I wanted to look at it because they're both good friends of mine, but there goes that. Okay, then let's have a look at the game of Pranav Anand.
Yes.
Because he must still very much be in the running for at least an IM norm, but possibly even a GM norm.
Yeah.
And also see how he recovered from his loss.
Yeah, so he had a performance of 27-30 or something, but then he lost yesterday. But he can still. He's not an international master, but the IM norm is secured basically. But he can still play for more, and he's playing a teammate of mine in the Swedish league. It's me and Lars Oskar, the two high rated players.
Did you see? I think we only saw one of Hauge's games, but it was a very strange game where he resigned in a rook ending. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
A rook ending, which was. It wasn't even clear if it was really losing the position. He resigned, so we were at the time discussing whether that is something he often does to take, somewhat rushed decisions. I mean, it was a very strange. He resigned a pawn down in a rook end game, which wasn't clear at all.
I didn't see it.
Quite impulsive. Ulf, I think, was shocked. Absolutely shocked. So let's have a look at the position on the board. So black is an
white has a queen.
There's a queen.
And black.
What
do black have? He has a rook, a bishop, and a pawn. So when I was very little, very young, they taught me to count the value of the pieces, and the queen should be 9 points. A rook, bishop, and a pawn is also 9 points. But the queen is normally, and I guess this is also the case, is stronger. Because it's much harder to organize something. Yeah.
I agree.
Because the queen has all the strength in one piece. So what's happening here? King h1 was the last move. Yeah. Because black had a threat in this position. If, let's say, I play rook f1, you can probably take an e2 and take king on f3, and then you get one extra pawn, and maybe even b2 is falling down. So therefore he stepped aside with the king h1. Right. Okay, so I want to play this move knight f4 if it works. What can we play? Rook c8.
Well, he did play knight c6 to try and swap.
Knight c6.
Swap off some more pieces, but.
I don't really like knight c6. But okay, the idea is maybe that if you can break this blockade and push with d4 and then later d3, then it's definitely compensation.
So what do we do? Do we take on f6? Do we keep
Yeah,
our bishop?
I guess we take on f6 because I don't really like this exchange for black because there are so many weak dark squares now. And this, I mean, the black pieces somehow doesn't look coordinated together. Rook d1.
Rook.
I don't know if you can play d4. Maybe you can play d4. Because I cannot take.
Yeah, I mean, I guess white needs to be a bit careful because, as you said, if the pawn gets to d3,
yeah, if the pawn
might be quite dangerous.
This bishop on b5, it's not so easy to get rid of. Maybe knight c6 is a good one, but in general, I guess this must be really good for white.
Okay, I think we should leave this one and go back to the top boards. Let's check back in with Gajewski and Abati.
And
let's go back to where did we leave after knight f8?
After knight f8, yes. And he took on f6, which is quite surprising for me, actually. I don't really know why he took, but okay, g3. Okay, so the idea, white somehow wants to attack the pawn on d5. He wants to play bishop h3 to g2 and maybe something with knight to f4. h4, and after h4, rook ad8. I see that black is very ambitious now, trying to open up the king side with g5. And actually black is the one who's got the better chances here because the bishop on d6 is quite good in the attack. And also the black rooks are somehow better than white's.
Yeah, now suddenly the knight.
Yeah, one may expect h takes g5, but maybe white can always play a move like queen f5 or something. This knight takes g5 gains some time also because you're threatening the bishop and h3, but also something with knight f3. And later this pawn, you can maybe push h5, h4 later.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. So bishop g2 and he played knight f3 check.
Yeah, and you don't really want to take this knight.
But that you also, I guess, don't really want to leave that knight.
You would like to play something like king f1 and then later drive away the knight with knight f4. No, I cannot, because if I take,
I guess you cannot.
If I take, I cannot drive away the queen from f3. I cannot even move my own queen. I cannot move the king. And now I guess it's just
h4
rook g8 and h5 and this.
Yeah, this just looks really horrible.
But it looks.
But what happens if I play after takes, queen takes? If I play king f1.
If you play king f1, it looks
horrible.
It looks horrible, but I mean you can take on e3.
Yep.
For example.
That answers my question.
But where do you actually go after knight f3? Because if you put the king in on h1, you're like in a mating net now. Because if you can never take, and maybe black has something.
Maybe so.
I mean, h5, rook g8 maybe.
Yeah, it just looks like there are
or
two little pieces defending the king.
You would like to move this bishop once in order to defend d5, because later you can try to get the light squared bishop into attack as well with bishop c8.
But it looks like there might even be something more concrete.
I mean, if you play king f1, there's also some idea with knight. I mean, even here you can actually take on e3. Because if you take, I have a discovered check here, and the queen is.
Yeah.
So maybe rook takes e3.
So does
It's
that
a
mean
game over actually.
Does that mean we have to go?
There are some
to-
other ideas. I mean, you can give a check and play knight g4 also, which looks. But maybe now knight f4 actually works. But rook takes e. Therefore, maybe king h.
H1.
And now maybe you want to. You can try to play knight g1 or knight f4. For example, after h5, maybe you survive with knight f4 actually. Even though you can take on f4, and after g takes you can play this
There's
check,
mate,
this
huh?
mate. And if you take here, I mean, d4 is hanging at least. So h5 is probably playable. I guess. I mean, this.
It could be that black is
black-
already very close to
Yeah.
just be winning.
And then if he can win this game, he's doing extremely well because he's.
I mean, it's a crucial victory,
Yeah.
especially with the black pieces at this stage.
Something went wrong just in. I mean, the last like 3-4 moves.
Mm.
For example, I don't like this move h4, which
Mm.
white played. Just weakened his own king side.
I mean, it was even strange to give up the bishop on f6.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I would expect something this bishop later to drop to g3.
Mm.
After that, the king is more safe.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels somewhere around here. White started losing this quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave Gajewski to his woes. Let's go back to board 2, a Wonder Liang and Maxime Lagarde, where it
Yeah.
looked earlier like white was picking up a pawn.
Yeah.
Okay, so he didn't. It's weird that he went to e2 and not to b5, no?
If you go to b5, you stop this move b5.
Yeah. Let's see.
I'm not sure why knight e2 is better than knight b5.
I mean, maybe it isn't.
Yeah.
But let's see, knight
b5.
e2,
You mentioned this move b5 because f5 is not as appealing anymore when the pawn is not on e5 because you will end up with a pawn on f5 and the king is just getting weaker. So b5 is maybe more in the position now. But white did pick up a pawn actually, and black is trying to prove some compensation for it with I mean the bishop pair, and this bishop on b1 is actually quite bad. Now d5. So he's trying to open up the position completely now.
So
happens
what
if we-
happened? Yeah, I
if we
wanted to
take?
ask the same thing.
What happens if we take maybe rook d8, and after rook d8
I cannot really defend the pawn.
you
here.
cannot defend. You can push pawn. Then you have to accept that black can double these pawns.
And maybe not. Can I play rook d7
Yeah, you can also try to play rook c6.
and after push?
After you push, I can try maybe rook c7.
This
And maybe
feels
this-
like it's okay for black.
Yeah, and I guess that's why he didn't want to take, because he wants to keep the position under control here. With e5, now d4 also. Queen takes d4. Yeah, so he took on f3. G takes. That's interesting because he gives black the option of keeping the queens now.
But
One-
what happens
one,
even if what happens if I do exchange?
Yeah, you can exchange queens. I actually suspected that he would. And after bishop takes e5, white is a pawn up in the end game, but it's not so serious winning chances.
Yeah,
But
but
with the rooks, I mean, normally with only the bishops, almost all endgames with the pawn down is drawn. But with the rook left, it's a
There's
good.
some,
It's better to have opposite colored bishops, because you can play against the opponent's king, and he cannot oppose your own bishop. And the bishop and the rook is strong together. So like if you can transfer the bishop to c4 and secure it with a4 or something, and then enter the 7th rank, this extra pawn can prove to be an
But so
extra
you're
pawn.
saying that in the game you expect Lagarde to keep the queens?
No, I would expect him to exchange it, because it's only white who can win. It's probably drawn, but you can
No, but I mean,
risk free.
after she takes f3, do you expect black to keep the queens?
Yeah, I want. Maybe it's not possible. If I defend with f4, like if I play king, I can play queen e6, but maybe
But f4 I have an immediate pressure on
f4, yeah. Because I would like to take the pawn with the bishop, because the black king is much more safe.
Safer,
Yeah, much safer. But you can also get this endgame. But the difference is, this is maybe an improved version for white, because this he can play rook d7 now with the threat against the a7 pawn.
Okay, rook c7.
Let's say maybe here you can
Rook c8, yeah. I would be very surprised if white has serious winning chances here.
get something like. Maybe I should take here, and then you can maybe play. But this is not.
But I will put the bishop maybe to b6, and I will always have pressure against f2. It looks like there's enough.
But if he exchanges queens, but it's only white still who can win, I guess. Didn't
he took on d4.
He was not sure about those positions with sacrificing a pawn.
But I mean, I have a feeling that he will hold this quite easily.
Yeah.
Because the pawn structure is just so weak on the, so damaged on the king's side.
But I expect rook d7 anyway.
Yeah.
And rook c7 is probably correct.
I mean, with every piece, of course, that black exchanges, he gets closer to the draw.
Yeah, he played rook d7.
Rook d7 is on the board.
You can get something like this maybe, and you can exchange one time, and then you defend the 7th rank again. Something like this. But black also gets. I mean, black also gets active actually. It will probably end in a draw, but.
So okay, let's go back to board 3, and then we will go back to the tiger. Check in with tiger.
Yeah, this. I thought that black was doing very well when we left this game, and they played this move c4. I was not sure if you should play c4 or when you should play c4. I expected to castle first, because I don't believe that white should take on c5 anyway, because you get this center pawn on e5. The good thing of playing c4, I mean, is that oh, he did castle, no? Yeah, he did castle. h3, yeah. Oh, he didn't play c4.
Yeah, I didn't realize
no,
that we were just looking at your analysis.
Yes. But the one good thing with playing c4 could be that if it's possible for white to take, this knight gets a square on d4. But it's I mean, this is never a move, because you take on e3, and you can also take on c5, but you can take on e5. So this is never really a threat. Rook c8. So I mean,
decided to take.
He decided to take, yes. Anyway.
Took with the knight.
Maybe he should have played c4 actually, because now after d takes, yeah, he took on e3 and took the pawn back. Okay, queen d3. bishop g7. Okay, so there's a pawn hanging on g6. And what happens if you try to defend it? How is the material right now?
I think white. No, it's equal.
It's equal, yes. I mean, one option for white, if he doesn't want to stand worse, is to take on e5 and then play queen d4, because it will force black to take on d4.
Defending actually looks quite nice for white.
Yeah, because now the structure, I don't even know what to take with, but you take with the e-pawn.
At first sight I would like to take with the e-pawn.
And this is probably good for white, with this small weakness on e6. But also, I mean, like in, let's say that we have a king end game. White have an idea of playing b4, b5, and then sacrifice with c6. So white is actually the one who can create the passed pawn, even though it looks like black has control here.
So in the game,
but he didn't. He actually played bishop g7.
Yeah.
So one may expect.
So
the
what
white
would
to
have
take.
happened? Yeah, I was just gonna ask what would have happened if I took on g6,
I guess he will take on c5.
and I would take on e6.
Yeah, and king. To h8.
But then you allow me knight e5 with tempo, no?
No, I have
but
queen
you have a
takes.
check.
I can check on e3. And I want to play something like rook e8 and take on e3. He started with knight d4, which probably is good, because now you cannot take on c5, you cannot play e5 because of knight e6. And how do you react? I mean, if you take, this
looks really,
it
really
looks even
unpleasant.
even worse with the queens left.
Because
So,
not only is e6 weak, but also g6, and this just
So
looks
maybe black
disgusting.
shouldn't have allowed all of this. I mean, instead of rook a8, he could have played c4, which I quite like, because now you cannot play knight c5 because it's the same, like the same position, but black has an extra pawn. So therefore, he must move the knight, and then you can double on the f file or something, and then later regroup the knight to c6. So maybe he underestimated this knight takes c5, and the computer also tends to like white now.
Actually, let me interrupt you for a second. Let's go back to board 1, because I'm seeing it with my all-knowing engine, and he did play king h1, and there is a shot here for black. So I'm testing you and the audience at the same time.
How does black win? Queen h4.
I mean, I don't even understand it completely yet myself. I just...
Are you sure that there's just in one move?
No, it's not. It's not
okay.
obvious. I mean, it's not like it's not easy. Let's see.
Oh, you can play. You already knew what the move was.
I know.
Can you take on e3?
Yeah, that's it.
And after f takes, you can play bishop takes g3.
I'm not
No?
sure yet, because for some reason after rook takes, it looks like
Because
f takes isn't the first line.
no, but this is the critical.
Yes, of course.
And then bishop takes g3, and you cannot stop.
The queen from coming to h4.
Yeah, if you take here, there's some mate in 3 or queen f2, queen h2. Now, let's say if you go knight f4, you can simply check. You can give a check now, and after knight h3, you can play bishop c8, and you take on h3. So this looks...
So actually, the best defense after rook takes e3 apparently is bishop h.
Bishop h3. Okay. But if there's nothing better, we just go back with the rook, I guess.
Like, the first moment, I don't know how strong it is, but the first moment the computer suggested the interesting looking knight h4 here.
Knight h4 here, yeah. So if you take a knight h4 looks good. Cannot take here because of h3. And if you take here, I guess there is... This is too much. Because after, let's say, king h2, queen f2 check, king h1, you can take on g3, for example.
Oh, by the way, he has found rook e3. Rook e3 is on the board.
Then he's completely in his zone now. So he will not
this will
mess
be
this one up.
a very impressive game actually from Nabati.
Yeah, this is, I mean...
Just crushing.
After white took on f6 and black played this move g5, it's just a one-man show, this game.
I mean, of course, Nabati is a very, very strong GM, but still to find rook e3 is very nice.
Yeah. Maybe even at this point, if you... Maybe he... I mean, sometimes when you have a position like this, you have no counterplay. You have no compensation for the pawn, even if black goes back with the rook, and you're probably getting mated anyway. So sometimes you actually just take on e3 and let your opponent deliver checkmate now, which it's the most it's the professional way of handling the position.
Good advice for anyone out there.
It's still a gentleman's sport.
How do you feel about in these positions where you see where your opponent has a potential nice checkmate? Do you let them checkmate you, or will you resign to ruin it?
It's quite strange because quite often players let the opponent deliver the checkmate, but they resign just the move before it's the checkmate.
I had a couple of very frustration occasions where they could have resigned for a long time, but then you get to this position where you think, okay, at least there's a nice checkmate coming up, and then they resign, and you're like, okay, like what's the point of resigning now? It feels like they're just taking that.
But this is you can resign here, I guess. Your piece, you don't even have like an active move. I mean, you cannot move the king, you cannot move the bishop, you can go to h3, which is losing. You cannot move any of the knights, you cannot move the queen to a good square. The rooks are doing nothing. I mean, you don't even have a move. So this is like the only normal move for white now, which is losing by force.
Okay, let's leave it.
But maybe he will try. He may try to play bishop h3. And the idea is...
I would be surprised if he resigned already, but I don't think the game will go on much longer.
He will not resign now because they have made too few moves. So it looks better if you resigned after like
move 30.
Because otherwise people will see that it was only 23 moves, and then it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Okay, I will keep an eye on this one here and let you know if anything happens. But where should we go? Let's go back to Tiger. So we left it off here where the times were off. I should apologize about the harsh words I said about Tiger's time management.
It's quite impressive if he on move 12 used 11 minutes and 22 seconds, and then he managed to use 11 minutes and 22 seconds on move 13 as well.
That is true for all your OCD people out there.
So maybe that is what Tiger is doing. That's why he's always in time travel. He needs to.
Okay, so he did spend quite a bit more time on deciding where to develop the bishop.
But bishop e2 is also normal because it's sometimes connected with, if you can play knight f5, it's sometimes connected with also playing this move g4 in order to involve some pawns in the attack. But here actually I see that after e4 he castles short. But castling short is maybe not his next. If it were white to move now, he would probably play something like knight f5 and g4. But after e4, castling makes much more sense now, because the idea is to push with the f3 or f4 now. And when black takes en passant, for example, the rook has an half-open f-file. So therefore, castling makes more sense after e4. Black played h5. And yeah, the pawn is not for free actually, because after bishop takes h5, you have this move queen h4 with a double
attack against h5 and h2.
And black is actually threatening to play h4, because let's say I play even h3. Then you can play h4, and after knight f5, I have queen e5 with a
some
double
serious
attack
problems.
again. So what did he play? Yeah, he played yes, he was forced to play f4 now. But actually, I think that the Tiger would rather not have seen this move h5 coming, because it means that the white king is also. There was something wrong with taking with the rook now, for example. I mean, something like knight g4, and it may be that black is the one who is attacking white in this position. Or is it h4? No, h4. You can play h4, yeah. And after knight f5, you can play queen e5. And even though you have rook, you still have rook f4 actually. But he took with the pawn anyway. Knight e5. King h1. So, okay. Tiger's idea is of course to play the rook to the g file, but he also wants to go with knight f5. And if black is forced to take, his queen is getting involved in the attack on f5. And he still have this bishop on b2. So there are some motifs of playing knight d5 or knight b5 if he can attack g7. For example, if I play... do we play? As a black, I would like to... I don't know. Actually, I like white's position now, but... sometimes there are some concrete things to watch out for. Queen e6. Queen e6 is logical in one way. He steps aside from knight f5 and he covers the f5 square. So he may want to play h4, after which the knight must go to e4. But this, I mean, it looks like white is doing quite well now. Knight ce4 was not the first. It's not the first move. I would consider playing rook g1 now actually. With the idea of if you play h4, for example, I go knight to e4 now, and already I create some threats actually against g7. I'm threatening to take on f6 and put the next knight on e4, or play f4 first, and g7 is
yeah, this looks quite promising.
so therefore maybe not h4, but I will anyway. He can play this move later, for example. The only thing he didn't like maybe is this move knight to c4, because he doesn't want to give up his bishop pair in this position. So knight c4 is a move, and that's probably why he played the knight ce4. But you like white here as well,
Yeah. I always like attacking chances.
And also you have better development actually, because the bishop on c8 is not developed, which means that the rook on a8 is not developed.
Also, that bishop on b2
Yeah,
is very strong.
It's very strong, and you have ideas with rook g1, f4, especially if you trade one knight. I mean, for example, you may already be threatening to take the h5 pawn.
Yeah. I think we need to go back to board 1, because Nabati is just playing a masterpiece, and I think it's about to be over. So why didn't resign? He played knight g1.
Knight g1, and anyway, this move bishop takes g3. So he has actually put 3 pieces on pre next to each other on the third rank.
Also, hello, a warm welcome to the chat, which I've been ignoring for the last while because I had my eye on board 1, but welcome to Pawn Pusher Dutch Defender. Nobody really. Also, they said that apparently Grandmaster Moroni is in some trouble, so we can have a look at that
young guy
in
from
a little bit.
Italy.
But I will try to keep an eye on the chat, so if you have any further comments or questions, I'll try and keep an eye.
Should we see what's
gonna happen?
what's
happening after f takes g3, because we are threatening.
You can f takes g3, yes. After f takes g3, he's gonna play.
I mean, I was saying, you know, like, oh, he's playing a masterpiece, but I didn't, I couldn't even figure it out yet where the mate is. It feels like there must be.
Yeah, I think he will take on g1 actually. Because when you take, probably you should take with the king now. Actually, because if you take with the rook, I guess it's just mate on h4 now. But maybe you can still hold on with king takes g1 for a couple of moves. But you can. How do you do this?
It's strange. It feels like we must be missing something, because there's only really 3 pieces attacking, so it should be quite easy for us to find at least some reasonable candidate moves.
Maybe it takes. But he can. Taking on d4 is not so clear, I guess.
No, I think it's actually the first. I just had a little cheat moment, and I think it's actually the first line.
Knight takes d4.
Yeah, I think.
Because I thought that, yeah, white should give up the exchange on d4. The point is maybe that after knight e2 you can simply take on e2, for example.
And the rook is hanging on a1. And
yeah.
if I take with the queen, I just take on c3. Yeah, or is this?
But maybe there are some. Maybe it's some compensation for white, like after rook f1 or something. Maybe this is not.
What are we missing?
This is like 3 pawns down, but suddenly this bishop is not so good.
We must have missed something.
But I guess rook takes d4 must be played. I guess because otherwise, I mean, there are forks on b3, but also just to take on g3 and play queen h4 check. So you have
you were right. So up until knight g2 we were right, and then here
something better here.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you can probably even.
I mean, I have seen, seen the move, so I'm just leaving you to.
I mean, queen e5 or something.
But also, I mean, I'm not sure how much I can trust this engine on this computer, but it's saying queen d3 simply.
Yeah, you can.
But to see all of this from a distance.
Yeah, we have an endgame here, for example. I guess the point is to take with the pawn and then push d2.
Yeah.
And there's.
It will be hard to stop that pawn.
Yeah, because. Yeah, you will have to play knight g1 maybe. Actually, because after d2. Oh, no. You can go here also, but after d2. You must protect here somehow with knight d1 or something. But this is probably too much because there's something with rook c8 to c1.
Meanwhile, Gajewski hasn't taken on g3, he has taken on f3.
Yeah, I thought that was... knight takes f3 is also critical. Is it rook takes f3 now? I guess.
It looks like.
And if you take on f3, there is... this is over now, yeah.
Where is the mate?
Yeah, it's probably rook g8 now. And that's game over. Therefore, after rook takes f3...
And rook takes f3 is on the board.
You can take on g3, but now you simply take on g3.
Yeah.
And you're gonna double on the g file, and you cannot stop queen h4 check.
Yeah, and this is the position on the board.
He played rook takes. After you only spent 10
seconds
or 12.
Yeah. I mean, this is just simply gonna be a candidate for game of the tournament, I guess.
This is completely crushing game. So yeah, I think in my eyes Nabati have been improving his play from round to round, because the first round was quite shaky, and then actually in the second round his opponent had close to a fortress, which he managed to break down. But before yesterday I had actually the feeling that Nabati is maybe the favorite to win, and it's because was in trouble in the first round, because sometimes when you're in trouble you get the feeling that you're mortal, so to say, and therefore you concentrate more. But if the first 2-3 rounds are too easy, you don't
lose focus a little
you don't have the sense of danger.
You get into the tournament much more if you have a tough
as long as you still win those games. It's quite a positive thing.
Okay, so let's have a look at the game that was suggested in the chat. I believe now it is quite likely Gajewski will resign, because there simply doesn't seem to be a move, really.
Yeah.
So Moroni, who is he playing? I don't
it's
even
here.
know.
Frode Urkedal. Frode, he didn't win that game. We saw Urkedal. He had the rook and 2 rooks and 1 knight, which was probably good for him, but it ended in a draw. Rook takes d4. So we haven't had a Swedish winner at the Rilton Cup since 2003-2004, I think.
And that was who?
Ralf Åkesson, I believe. But we have had Norwegian winners. John Ludvig Hammer won the tournament twice in a row between 2013 to 2015. So
can Åkesson try and make a push to follow in his footsteps? So what is the material count?
The material, yes. White
starts somewhere.
White is 2 pawns up at the moment.
The question is, can black drum up any counterplay, I guess, on the H file?
Yeah, but the problem is maybe not the pawns, but black doesn't feel like he has stability here somehow. I would like to play this move b4 actually, if it works, because let's say you take on b4 once, and then you're gonna take this pawn on e6, but after knight takes e6, I mean it's a little bit shaky after bishop a2 maybe.
I guess I have to get out king g7.
King g7. But now this is a clear, should be a clear pawn down. I mean, I can take also on e6 and play something like rook d1 maybe. And this should be, this is just like one line, but probably even some other moves. Like rook, you can play rook d1 now, which is probably even stronger. But it's how are you gonna mate white on the h file? Because then you must play queen h4 and rook h4 at the same time.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
I was
fighting for
being a
this.
bit optimistic. I wanted to play rook h4, rook h5, queen h4.
But let's say I play a move like. The problem for black is that he have no like safe squares for his pieces. This knight on c5 can be pushed away with b4. He doesn't have like an outpost on the d file. But white has a nice outpost on d7.
That's true.
So if you play like rook f4, maybe I can start with bishop a2, and then I will play rook d7. And with the pawn on d7 protected, it's hard to.
I agree.
Hard to believe. Then therefore, I played the rook c4. Rook c4. It's the same idea as rook d1, but they like rook d1. I mean, rook d1 more because of course you want to take. If you take, you want to take with the rook on d1.
Of course, yeah.
Rather than this, but
Still white. Clearly in the driving seat.
yeah, black needs to create some counterplay here with rook d2 or something. It's like the only chance.
Well, we will come back to this one later. For now, we are going to take our daily break. So we'll come back with all the action from round 7 here at the Rilton Cup at 6 p.m. local time, which is 13 minutes from now. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to round 7 coverage of the Rilton Cup. We're now approaching the time trouble very quickly. So let's start with this one because it's likely a very good candidate for game of the tournament. A brilliant game by the top seed Tamir Nabati.
Yep.
So we left it off.
Yeah, he had he started to I mean this move rook e3, which basically is game over. After f takes e3, you have this bishop takes g3, and we see that the position is still winning, but he didn't deliver mate immediately. So white is still holding on.
Let's just see what we missed. So we saw rook takes f3.
Rook takes f3. Now it took. You could not take on f3 because of the king g1. You can play rook g8, and it's mate in a couple of moves. So you had to take on g3. Rook takes g3. Rook d2. And you double on the g file. King g1. So white is not getting mated, but black already has 3 pawns, and the white king is extremely vulnerable here. Rook h3. Okay, so the idea with the rook h3, as far as I can see, is to play queen h4 and rook h1 mate. Other moves could be, I mean, bishop c8 maybe. But you'll have to calculate knight takes d5. So rook h3, rook f2, and now it took a fourth pawn. Queen f5, but the knight on c3 is arm free.
And he
but
decided
he
to just
could actually not defend it, I guess. Rook takes.
It's a
c3.
pity that this game is not going to end in a mate, most likely, as it should have.
But it should end soon, because the black king is completely safe actually, because there's no check on the diagonal. And I guess black has a couple of threats already.
I mean, rook g3, I guess, is the immediate threat.
Yeah.
When you
Queen h5, so he wants to take on h6, but it's I mean it's quite easily.
maybe simply
defend.
rook g6, even though.
Yeah, you can play rook g6.
I can't.
You can.
I can.
We can. Yeah, you can.
What am I missing again?
Because the rook on f2 is pinned, so
Yeah.
you cannot take on f7 anyway. So I like rook g6. Just defending everything, and then you want to play rook g3. And you can also, I mean, at some point you can maybe play bishop c8 to include the bishop, but also just to push the pawn with c3, and c2 should decide the game also. So this is, I mean, he will win this game quite soon.
Well, I'll keep an eye on
finals.
it. Let's see what other results we had on the top 10 board. So board 2, let's very quickly see how that ended in a draw.
Yes.
I mean, white was a pawn up, but it looked like black had more than enough compensation.
And we expected black to play rook c7 in order to exchange a couple, one rook. But we saw this. We actually saw this like maneuver to get the bishop to b6 to have some pressure on f2, but also defend the pawn on a7. So sometimes this endgames gives the side with the extra pawn some chances, because when you have opposite colored bishops, you also want to have a rook. The players trying to win want one rook in order to I mean combine some play with extra pawn, but also to attack the opponent's king. But here it's I guess it's simply not possible. F5. King g7. Because white cannot do really. I mean, he must defend the f2. He cannot. I mean, black could play f5, but white cannot really defend f2 for the whole game.
And white didn't even try.
No, he didn't even try, because black has.
I mean,
you can even play.
I was wondering.
This is probably probably drawn, but it's even not necessary.
Okay, let's leave this one because, as I said, the players are nearing time trouble. So let's go to board 3, and then after that we can check in with Tiger.
Because Nabate will win his game and have 6 points, and they played draw. So the only player who can catch up is Gopal if he wins this game.
So we left it here. Let's see what we missed.
Bishop takes d4. So we actually briefly looked at this position,
which we thought was really, really unpleasant for black.
So he has, but it's quite unusual pawn structure here. I mentioned briefly that if we would swap all the heavy pieces, white would be the one who can create the passed pawn with b5, a takes b5, and c6. Therefore, white, this position can be quite dangerous for black, because it's actually not. It can be possible to exchange, or at least have some threat to exchange all the heavy pieces. Do you have a name for this structure?
I don't think so. Do you?
Yeah, I used to call it the diamond. It's this kind of structure. So you can get the diamond from.
You don't get it so often, actually.
Not so often, but the diamond.
It's a good name. I'll remember it.
And it's I always like the diamond because it's quite a good structure, but it also looks nice for the eye.
Aesthetically pleasing. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. B4, rook f5.
Rook e1. So this pawn on e6 is the only weakness in the position. It's not so weak, but the problem is also that the black king is slightly more vulnerable than the white. And he played with c4, so he ruined his diamond with c4, but he wants to open up the position a little bit. With d7. But I don't know if I like this move c4, because if white takes on d5, let's say we take, you can take with the queen and you get a nice square, and the pawn on d4.
Yeah, there was maybe no need to rush for white.
I mean, a normal move would be something like just queen e3 maybe to keep the position.
I mean, Gopal has been struggling a bit. Also, yesterday he
was a little bit.
I mean, struggling with converting advantages.
And how's his time? It's better than yesterday, maybe. In the 7. So it took now. He takes. Did he have any option here? I was just thinking if we can take on c4 actually first, because if I guess I have to take back. Yeah. And now it's.
Now it's a different story. Yeah?
This looks actually better for me compared to the game now, because after g takes f5, rook e5. You can still take on c4, but the problem is maybe that white will be able to push with d5 also, and then I mean, white is the one who's sitting with the break in this position. King f6. It's not the most obvious move, maybe. Queen c3.
Neither is queen c3.
And he's trying to defend against d takes c4, because you can play this move d5 now. But he doesn't. Okay, maybe he has. What's the idea? You cannot push. You cannot push with b5. He's just keeping the position, maybe. But king f7. So he stepped aside from this tactical motive in king f2. But this looks okay for black now, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, as I say, once again, it is a case of Donchenko defending quite well, but also Gopal maybe not taking his chances, really.
d8. So now he defends the pawn on d4 with king e3. So usually you don't You don't activate the king when the queens are still on the board, but both players are ready for the endgame here somehow. But actually, at this point, you had to play king e3 maybe. Otherwise, d4 is...
it's the only way to defend upon, yeah.
But one interesting move was rook takes f5 check maybe. Because you cannot take it. And where do you go?
To g6, yeah.
But I can play rook e5 now.
Oh. So
and
can I go somewhere else?
Yeah, you are forced to go king e7.
To defend the pawn on e6. Yeah.
And this is okay for black, yes, because I get to exchange the queens on d4. But it's interesting that he only spent 3 seconds on this move, rook d8.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So maybe he even missed rook takes f5. King e3, king f6, king d3, queen c6. But I mean, I would be worried with the white now.
Yeah, it's very strange how much it has turned around. King c3.
King c, but the
pawn is hanging, but e6 is hanging. Okay, so what if I... No, I can't defend. I wanted to defend e6 with rook e8, but is there d...
Is there d5 here?
And by the way, Gajewski has just resigned the game against Nabati. So that means we now have a sole leader, and as we just said, Gopal is the only player who could catch up.
Yes, but I believe that
his winning chances have
they're gone, and that's I would be worried with white now because this.
I think we should probably leave this and find some games. We'll come back to it, of course, but some games where the clock situation is more dramatic. Tiger's Games is one of those, but it has simplified a lot. I think we should probably just stick with the current position, or at least just very quickly. Maybe we can very quickly just click through the moves to see how we got.
Yeah, we saw this position of the knight e4, and we thought that white had quite good attacking chances with the moves like rook g1 and maybe knight f5 or f4, and this bishop on b2 is very strong. Queen h3, rook g1, h4, and like the computer and the bars suggests that this is just winning for white. Knight h4.
There must have been some move here.
Yeah, you have other moves. You can play. I guess you can play f4 even, or not. But maybe it's. I mean, you can take on g3, and after rook takes g3, you can probably move the queen somewhere. Maybe you can actually exchange queens, or you can play queen f5. And this this endgames, this if you exchange the queens, it's not optimal. Knight h5, but knight h5 looks like the most obvious move.
Let's have a very quick look actually at what I will have a look here at what the.
But it was very strange now because the bishop g4. Just.
So apparently the win was bishop f1. Is that just?
In this position.
Yeah.
Bishop f1. So if you want to keep the queen, you must go to e6 or to
d7.
Let's say queen e6, and you play knight h5 now, and it's a little bit different, I guess, because after g6 you can probably play knight f4.
Yeah, that.
Or you can even take on h4, and you have some knight f6.
Yeah, so that was it. Bishop f1 was just winning more or less.
Because here black played bishop g4, and the idea is that if you take, black is gonna give mate here on f2 somehow.
Yeah, that looks very nice.
Yeah, the queen is also on pre, so Maybe he missed this move bishop g4, but the queen is the queen is trapped after knight f4, but the pawn on f3 is hanging. And after this exchanges, the pawn on g7 will he took with the queen on f3.
What is going on?
Because if it takes with the it doesn't. Maybe it's just transposition, but he wanted to
be flashy.
Yeah. You have to take with the queen anyway. The material is still even.
That is not true.
It's not true.
I know it is true.
Because
keeping me on my toes.
Because this position is not as convincing as before.
Yeah.
Rook takes it. So now he won a pawn. Can you see what? Because they still have some moves to make.
Yeah. Okay, now the position actually simplified.
Yeah, now he won the exchange. So now he's gonna win this game.
Yeah, this should be a pretty straightforward technical win.
That means that he will get to 5.5, and they will probably be shared second place with 2 rounds to go.
Okay, so let's go. Where shall we go? Let's bring up the list.
Yeah, I guess.
Let's go back to Kobalia.
Kobalia, because he's the second highest rated player, and he can also get to shared second place. We had this position, which I thought was quite good for white, mainly because when you have this, it's quite normal to have the bishop on e8 in this in some Catalan variations, but the rook is usually on d8, and now it's not possible to include the rook, which means that black cannot like release the pressure and exchange rooks. He actually resigned. We can see what happened. He took on f6 and played knight g5. So we mentioned this ideas of playing knight g5. I suspected bishop c3 first, but after knight g5 he had to. You cannot really take. If you take, you can like never develop your pieces, and there are too many squares. And you have always, I mean, this a5 move is also in there. Knight e4, bishop g7, knight d6. You can see what happened.
So it's very likely tomorrow we will have the clash as well between the top 2 seeded players. The colors are matching as well.
Yeah. So Nabate will be playing white against Kobalia,
which will be a big game. I mean, unless Gopal can win, of course, but that is looking very unlikely. This victory as well today looked like a sort of model game.
You mean this game?
Kobalia, yeah. Not quite as flashy, of course, as the Nabate game, but
everything was
very convincing.
Probably under control.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite obvious that black had problems because he never developed like his pieces, and this bishop had to maneuver to g6, g7. So, and this is
just a piece. Yeah. Okay, so nice game by Kobalia. Let's go back to see. We didn't like Thibault's position. Well, Thibault was just a pawn down, or what was happening there?
Yes, we had this King's Indian, and he lost a pawn. We mentioned that you can take on c4, but you can also play e3 before you take on c4.
And he went for e3.
And the idea is to weaken the white king a little bit, because white could take the pawn on e4 anyway. So someone in the audience mentioned this move queen b3, but we can always keep the rook with queen f7, b5, e4. I made a lot of moves here.
Yeah, I think we should probably try to. I know it's a bit crazy to click through all these complications, but they still have.
You can see this position. They are in an endgame now where black is a pawn up, and also there's like a weakness on
e3. I guess in some. I mean, you bring the king up, and then you're probably gonna play d4 at some point. Maybe.
Yeah, you can bishop, but now you can. Can you play d4? No, of the bishop h3. consequence of d4. I mean, you have to go bishop g2 back in order to win e4, but
yeah, maybe white is just holding
Yeah.
on here. But can we bring the
Yeah, you can
king
do something.
first somehow?
there are some.
Or do you want to play b6 to
There are some
to
other
stop
ideas. You
any-
you can try to play b6 in order to play knight b2. Let's say I go back. If I play I can play bishop knight b2, and if you play a5, I take on a5, and after. But now I would like to have my king on e6, but you can have this idea of taking on e3, and you have a fork on c4.
Yeah.
Right now the king is entering and taking d5, but there are more ideas than d4. Bishop h3. But now maybe you play. What do you play?
Can I play king e7
Yeah,
and
king.
try to go to d6, c5?
But maybe
You can
maybe
do
he
the
doesn't want
check,
to
yeah.
allow.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to allow this bishop to come to d4 maybe.
Yeah.
But actually you can also, because you will also threaten like bishop e6 or something. You can maybe even play bishop e6 now, because of the knight takes here. You have some bishop c5, so it's not completely easy.
Okay, let's come back to this one because they are in endgame. There was in the chat, Pawn Pusher is
Yeah.
asking to go to board 8, a game we haven't seen yet. Heberla seems to be in trouble against
Yeah.
Falzaki.
This pawn on a3 is going to a2.
And the question is, Dutch Defender in the chat is asking, once the pawn goes to e2, what's the plan for
Oh.
black after?
What's the plan?
Meanwhile, since they have just made time control, I'm just gonna see here if there is any more time trouble action anywhere. While I let you figure out the chess part.
If you play
Actually, let's come back to this one. Let's go to the Frode Urkedal game
Well, one-
because
but one idea, if you, let's say I play a2, you play, let's say, king e3. One idea could be to go to like d8 with the rook, and then you exchange the last rook, which means that
the rook will be
the rook-
forever stuck.
Yeah, and if you play like king d2, and we exchange one rook, I may also be in time to, like, let's say, go. I don't know what you're doing, but g3, and now my like I can slowly improve on the other side, bring the king to d5 or something.
Let's go to Frode Urkedal and Luca Moroni because they are down to their last minutes, and there is quite an interesting position on the board.
Yeah, rook c4. So he's now, the material is still a pawn up.
The question is, can black drum up?
Yeah, he's playing
Any-
fast now. He
So-
played this move queen c5 instantly, even though he has 3.5 minutes, and that means that he knows that he's lost, and he doesn't want Urkedal to have time to think in this
But also
position.
it does make sense to at least try and come into g1.
Yeah. So he wants to take on c4.
I'm not
and-
sure. I mean,
and-
maybe he is lost, but still, it looks like there is some chances. I mean, the combination of knight and queen. It's not
Yeah.
like the white king is so
what do you do
happy.
here? So you cannot really stop queen g1 check.
But I'm even wondering.
Bishop f1.
You can play bishop f1.
But even after queen g1, is it really a threat? What am I?
You don't really want to because he's down to like for 1 minute now, and he wants to be sure that his position is still winning after move 40.
Yeah, of course.
But after queen c3 we can maybe we should wait for the moves. But the computer suggests that this allowed a perpetual or something. So queen g1 check is the most obvious. He must have been planning to go to g3 with the king. The black house.
It must
we
be.
can just see what, because he's down to 2.5 minutes soon, so he must make a move soon.
It must be surely queen g1, or is there
Queen
anything?
g1 and king g3.
And then I even don't have a check here.
But you can play because you have
E6
white
is a big
e6
threat.
is a big threat. You cannot allow e6 check.
And you cannot even stop e6, so it must be.
You must find something here.
Can I? What if I swap queens? Is that?
Yeah, you mean queen? Yeah, but that this endgame. I mean, I get to play e6, and I'm a pawn up. If I play king g3, you play your queen e1 check. Exchange the queens.
So what
play
are we
e6.
missing?
That's something.
Okay, what if can I play rook c1?
Yeah, you must
king
play
g3?
rook c1 is the move. After king g3, we play rook c1, and white cannot keep the queen on the diagonal, so you have to play something like queen d2 maybe.
So Urkedal has now made move 40.
And now after king g3, the computer suggests that black is winning. So
I mean that would be a
big
huge turnaround. Okay, we're back
well,
back to 0-0.
But the rook c1 is it's white has made it to the time control now with king g3, and the pressure is maybe on black. But it must be
Rook
rook c1.
is actually fairly obvious, I think, because there is no check, and you can't allow e6, and you cannot stop e6. So I would be very surprised if you didn't play rook c1.
I mean, like one thing is like if I play rook c1, queen d2, maybe I can take on c4 with black actually, because after, let's say, rook c1, queen d2, maybe I can take here, because after check, king g7. I mean, I can't even make a draw with white here, I guess.
Make a draw.
Queen.
Here the draw is here. Yes, this is. You can go there.
Yeah.
You can also go. You cannot go back.
But can
this
do
is
I
a draw.
have any rook h5? I know you're covering h4. Pity. I was starting to have
so
dreams.
this may. I mean, this computer suggests draw now, and this may be the way.
Yeah.
Because queen d2 is in a way safer than playing. Let's say the option is playing queen d3, but white doesn't have a threat. It's the same threat here. But for example, maybe now you have some checks actually.
But maybe even can I play a move like rook d1?
Yeah, rook d1. But what about giving the check?
Yeah.
Because if you play rook f2, I take on
take
e4.
on e5. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I mean, this is lost for white. Because you have a queen h4 mate wherever you go. And like here you take on e5. So therefore I think
and he played rook c1.
But I think white is forced to play. He must cover this queen e1 check, and this is probably
just
the end of the game actually. This perpetual check here should be the end of this game.
Okay, so
but it was a big
miss for
Urkedal.
Yeah.
Because here he's probably winning with some. He has maybe some, or at least he can keep his advantage somehow.
Yeah, but it's
no, it's not
easy.
It must be quite tough to find it with such little time also.
Okay, where do you want to go back? We haven't seen board 10 at all, actually. Maybe we could have a look at that. Jana against Devashis.
He managed to win that rook endgame against Kaido Kulouts from Estonia yesterday. And here, he is. Let's say he had two pieces for a rook, but black has also 2 extra pawns. It's very difficult position
to evaluate.
Yeah, but somehow if I can stop, if I can get stability in the position, I would prefer white here. I mean, if you can activate the bishop pair somehow, because this bishop on b5, for example, it's not so good in this position. I cannot afford knight takes d5. So if I'm forced to play like bishop c6, then I can play maybe bishop f6. Oh no, not bishop f6. Not bishop f6. Maybe something like rook f1. Or bishop h3. So right now so what's the idea? Is the idea to play bishop e2?
What's the idea of going
after knight takes d5, maybe you have bishop f3.
Yeah.
And this is maybe good for black now, because if you move the bishop somewhere, you have rook h7 also, and you don't want to take.
Sorry?
So, and he played bishop b5 in the last move, so the idea must be bishop e2. Now what are we doing after bishop? Because you can, I mean, you can, for example, play knight d1. But this is good for black now. If you can exchange this knight for e3, then d5 is no longer a weakness, and you have this.
Maybe we even have a move like rook d8 after, and then bring the rook to c7.
So and this knight on e3 is it's the best piece maybe, because black cannot really drive it away, and you want to have passed pawns you block with the knight. So this knight is very good, but bishop e2 is a little bit annoying. You want to get rid of this rook. The problem is that this bishop is
it's
kind
so
of stuck.
Yeah.
It's stuck on d8. But you have one, because black may be just in time, because you have this idea of playing bishop h4 with the threat of taking on g3, for example. So if you don't play bishop e2 now, let's say you play bishop.
Actually, he has just played rook f8.
Because this, bishop h4. He played rook f8, yeah. But maybe he's trying to make a draw now, because the only square for the bishop is bishop h4, and you can make a draw maybe with rook f4 and force the bishop.
This is on the board actually.
Yeah, I don't know if black wants anything more, but he can maybe force the draw
but
now.
But white cannot at least probably get anything.
But I think maybe he will accept the draw here, even though he should be the favorite and so on.
Yeah, they are repeating.
Because this, I mean, this is position is dangerous for black, because if he needs, the game ended in this repetition.
And also the Tiger game has just finished, or is about to finish the second from now. So Tiger wins his game. A good game, I think.
Yeah.
In the end, we were a bit critical, but we had the wrong time information. But
actually, I think his plan for his games tends to succeed. I mean, he gets the play he wants in a lot of his games. I don't even know, he lost. Yeah, he lost against Nabat in round 3. But he's having quite a good tournament.
Let's see what is still going on. Let's have a look at the results from board 11 to 20, see what is still going on there.
So Sergei Volkov recovered from his loss yesterday.
To Nabati. Beon Lopez lost to.
Yeah, Juan Beon lost 2 games in a row, compared to Erik Blomqvist, who has won 2 games in a row.
Looks like that game literally just finished a second ago. Vaishali, she is the older sister of Pragnananda.
Oh, okay.
Pragnananda. And can we just scroll down a little bit more to see the last?
There is a Norwegian derby.
Let's have a look at that.
I think Johan Salomon was doing very well last year. He was playing a final in the last round
Yes, I think
against
so too.
Alexenko.
Yeah.
So he had the chance of winning Rilton Cup last year. If he's gonna repeat this position last year, he needs to win today.
Yes. And tomorrow.
And tomorrow. Okay, so he's a pawn up. He has the bishop here. He has 2 connected passed pawns. The problem for black is his king. The king is not completely safe in this position because white has this knight on g5, and there are some like light squares. For example, you can block these pawns with moves like bishop c4, and you try to find a good square for the white queen. For example, if you play move like c5, I probably already. Now the bishop on g6 is hanging, but let's say I play. What do we play? A waiting move. Let's say I go queen d7, and bishop c4, and this is, I mean, a little bit annoying for black. So it's not so easy to convert this game anyway.
I know I just asked you to go to this game, but I think we should go back to board 3 because it's getting quite interesting actually.
Yeah, they played a very strange game.
Yeah. So we left it here. Black now went rook d7. So black is basically just waiting and asking white, what are you gonna do?
The position is probably balanced, but I started to be more worried with the white here because, I mean, the king on c3, it's not safer than the king on f6, I would say. I mean, there are some ideas connected with playing queen a4 at some moment
and
also.
that actually happened in the game, so let's see.
And he pushed d5 anyway. So he wants the square on d4 maybe for the king. Yeah. Well, so he's attacking with the king as well.
The king is actually, right now it's on e5.
Do you know what Santa Claus chess is?
No.
It's a Swedish chess juniors. They have like some mini games in chess, so to say. And you play normal chess, but you win the game when you enter.
If you get to the center.
If you get to the center with the king, you win the game.
It's played quite a lot online actually. Now it's called King of the Hill.
King of the Hill.
In online chess. Yeah, I didn't know.
In Sweden we call it Santa Claus chess.
Okay. Yeah, it's quite an interesting variant of chess. It's one I quite enjoy playing actually. So let's see, king d4. The queen does come to a4.
Yeah. Allowing a check.
Yeah.
Which looks.
Well, he took first on h5 and then gave the check.
This looks.
It's a bit crazy because after king f7 he did play king e5.
Oh, even king e5. Oh. He's playing it.
And queen a1.
Yeah, it's probably the only move.
Yeah, it is actually. It was the only move. So now, I guess the question is, I was just gonna say, after king f5.
Yeah, he must have some.
Must have some perpetual.
But one interesting move here. You have no checks, yes. One interesting move is rook f8 actually. In order to step aside with that discovered check whenever white gives a check. Maybe the king has some good square.
Maybe can I maybe play rook g6?
Rook g6. But then I have a check on b1. Right.
Oh yeah. And
but the rook f8 is maybe not the best, but it's a interesting move. I mean, the question is whose king is whose king is vulnerable here.
I guess Queen B1 must be the main move
Yeah.
to look at, because you cannot interpose any piece.
And you mentioned in the beginning of the tournament Tiger Hillar Persson's game from the Olympiad.
Against Šarić.
Yeah, but it was not against Ivan Šarić. Actually, it was against Tomas Laurusas from Lithuania.
That's not the same at all.
It's not this, but we played Croatia in the last round. But Ivan Šarić is on board 1.
Yeah,
so, but Nils Grandelius won against Ivan Šarić.
That's what I was confused. I think I mixed up those two things.
But it's and he got, I don't know if he won the prize for the best game of the year, but he got the prize for the best game at the Olympiad. And then it's like 180 countries and 4 players in each team, so it's a lot of. But he was definitely, I mean, it was voted, I think it was on chess.com maybe, or somewhere, some big website that it was voted. Yeah, maybe he won the game of the year as well. Yeah. But the most famous game when you attack with the king is Nigel Short wins a game against Jan Timman in it was like Tilburg 1992, I guess. He had some all the heavy pieces were on the board, but White needed to include his king in order to deliver checkmate. Yeah, very famous game. And went from like G1 to H6. Yeah. But this is maybe not as controlled as that game. This is a bit more, the king is a bit more out in the open. In fact, okay, so if but they have made them time control, so they have time, and I think that they need some time. Because what you have, the only check I see is the check on B1. So this is the first move you would look at, and it's probably dangerous to take the pawn. Two squares, G4 and G5. Yeah, you should not take this pawn because of Rook G8, and actually you can use this. It simply doesn't look to the human eye. It looks. But maybe actually after King F4, do I even have any checks? B4 is hanging as well. You cannot go to like the H file because it's actually checkmate. Yeah. So you. But after King F4, I just realized now that B4 is hanging. Yeah, you can also take on B4. Yeah. Therefore, I mean, you have to be really brave. But King. But if King G4, you can still take on B4 with check. And where's the king going after queen takes b4? Maybe now. Can you take now? And where are you gonna go after Rook G8? I'm not sure. I would be very surprised if you could take that pawn. Am I not just checkmating you by force if you take? But where am I going anyway now? That's your problem. It's checkmate anyway, yeah? I'm not sure, but the bar is telling us. It's checkmate on h4 and on f4. Okay, so you have to take, yeah? No, but... But we only have 2 squares now, yeah? Queen by 1 check. Yeah. So you have to take, or king e5. I missed what happens if king e5? No checks, yeah? Yeah. There's no checks. I know we have to check on a1 again, of course. Ah, okay. And that's why the bar is suggesting that it's equal. So probably the game will... Okay, they will use all of the... Black will use all of his time. Can I request to go to a game we haven't seen yet? One of my French friends, I believe, is still playing somewhere board 18 or 19, Mr. Mazet. Yes, he has been... Let's have a look. These are the last 2 games. Yeah, he hasn't had a great... He lost to this young Indian kid, Pranav Anand, but he lost on time. And I also saw that he has... registered himself to play the Rilton Blitz tonight. Oh, okay. And that is a sign that you have no hopes. He doesn't want to go home empty-handed to friend. But is he gonna win his game first? He's playing against another player from India, Prantik Roy. Yeah. And what's happening here? He is a pawn up. Yes, and his king is fairly safe. Yeah. Do you have... okay. b6 is hanging.
So I guess some technique will be required,
But there is maybe a threat of like...
Can I go queen b8, defend b6,
Yeah,
hit
defend.
f4?
That's multi-purpose move, yes. And you defend all the checks on the 7th rank.
Yeah, because now the queen is very out of play.
But do you do king g3 or king g3?
Maybe, yeah, I would maybe go to a dark square to just
How do
stay
you
out of the bishop's way.
This bishop on a4 doesn't belong on a4, so probably bishop e8 or something in order to...
Can I even play
cover
instead
some
of bishop
scores.
e8? Is a move like h5 a move?
Yeah, but maybe you're only creating weaknesses around your own
Yes,
king. But
yeah.
even if you push h4, it's not clear
Mm-hmm.
of the king f3 or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
But if you can like put the bishop on f7 or something, your king is super safe. And you also want to push this a pawn, of course.
Yeah.
So if I play bishop e8, then
You're
I can push.
preparing, yeah.
I'm preparing a4. Then I need to enter with the queen somehow.
And
So
he
I
has played queen b8.
Queen b8. Yeah.
I think he will probably. It will take some more time, but black should be
Yeah,
winning
white
this.
will always have hope to get some perpetual check, or he also has his own passed pawn, so he will try to put up a fight here at least.
And it looks very likely on board 3 that we are headed towards a draw because queen b1 and king e5 were played. When it
Yeah.
doesn't look like black has anything better than repeating moves with queen a1.
Yeah, but they very interesting play,
Yeah.
especially from Gopal.
Yes,
He sacrificed a pawn in order to get
this king to
the king to the center.
And yeah, so king e5.
Sometimes, you know, it's easy to forget the reality when you play like this because it looks so funny to enter with the king, but you forget about.
But also maybe at this point when he
Yeah,
went
I
a
mean
bit
this
crazy,
is
there were no.
it's impossible to take
Yeah.
on g5.
But I mean, even earlier when he started his king run, maybe the position was already.
Yeah.
He'd already missed his chance at that point, I think. Okay, what else? Let's go back to the other two, the two Italian players. That one of them finished in a draw. The Urquedal game finished in a draw a second
you mean
ago.
on board 8 also?
Yeah, let's just finish it.
Balsecchi.
Yeah, let's have a look at that.
Okay, so he actually, what did he play? It was this.
So he didn't play a2 immediately. That's what you're
Why-
looking at on move 40.
Yeah. But I don't see a reason not to play a2.
Yeah.
Because if you play a2 and if
No, we
it's
a
white.
few more moves. Yeah.
He could never
so-
play.
No,
'cause
he could.
He could have played.
But you need to go forward. You're moving in the wrong direction.
Oh yeah.
So this is on move 40, the position you looked at after rook a1, and here we
But
were looking.
now
at
you cannot stop a2 anyway. So played f6. Yeah. And the idea is if you take, do you play e5 now? Is this how you win? Because of the bishop e3.
By the way, just to let you know that the Urquedal Moroni game finished as we predicted with this queen f6, queen g5, perpetual. After black took. Like, I don't think we need to show that because we had it on the board, just to let you know.
But many players are finding perpetuals
Yes,
today.
yeah, that's true.
No, he didn't take on f6. I guess e5 is
threat,
the
yeah.
point, so he needed to keep the pawn on e5. e2. So white's only hope is to, create some kind of fortress or blockade. But it's, right now the chessboard is too big, too many entries. Bishops. So okay, the idea is to lock in the rook on a1.
Yeah. What is that rook doing?
Yeah, what is the rook doing on a5?
I guess it must be headed to a3 maybe, or to exchange a rook with rook a6.
Yeah. It's the idea is to defend the pawn maybe. I guess you cannot take on e6 now because of rook b5. If you try rook b6, I go rook b1, and I'm queening. So the rook needs to stand on the b file anyway.
And I guess.
But this is the last move, yeah.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do? King d2 looks reasonable. Because if I guess bishop b1 is the idea. And now, I mean, white will probably have to exchange the sacrifice the exchange. But now when the king is on, in this, if it's white to move here, you probably go to e3 before you sacrifice, because if you take now, black will have this move rook a2 check and pick up the pawn. So if you're gonna, but you want to force maybe the bishop to go back or to go to b1, and now you go back to e3. And I guess you can still not take. Maybe you can take, but this is probably lost anyway after rook b5. Let's say if you play rook b6, I can just exchange now when this rook is locked in, and I will. I will decide the game with the extra exchange. It's quite funny, you know. You can have some king endgames sometimes when you have a exchange on a1. You have a rook on a1, and you have a bishop on b1 and pawn on a2. Then you're actually playing a pure king endgame, which is almost always winning.
Quite interesting.
What happened? Yeah, rook a5. I suggested earlier that black maybe should have played like rook d8 to challenge on the b file, because it's not easy to exchange this rook on b6 anyway. So it still requires some technique, I guess. But how do you make? I like to include this move at least, just to force the bishop, and then I go back and I wait and see what's happening. If you play a move like rook a6.
What if I play rook a3 and try to go to b3?
Yeah, maybe that's his idea. Probably winning by 4 somehow. Now this is the only chance.
Okay, maybe I can include king f7 just because there's no reason.
If king f7, he will give a check.
Yeah, but I will go to g6.
G6. Now I would play.
Okay,
G4.
can I even start? Okay, maybe black is simply in no rush. If I go back, can I start with just rook a6?
Yeah, I would play rook b4 first. What I want to do with white here is I want to play g4 and the h4 just to clean my second rank, and then I will give the exchange.
Actually,
at the best moment.
I wanted as black to have time to play h5 somewhere, but at the moment I haven't.
But then okay.
Yes,
but anyway, I have to move I have to move the g and the h pawn in order to sacrifice the exchange. But now I want to take the pawn on c4 also.
I see that.
But you can play bishop b1 just feels right to lock in this rook. And I play king e3, let's say king f7, I play g4. What do you do? You play, this was your idea, we can play rook a3. And now I'm probably forced to take. So now the point of g4 is that maybe now I can play like h4, and this gives white some hope actually to save the game, because I will have some check on b7.
The bishop is doing a great job on d4, covering a7 and defending the pawns.
And there is white has a pawn for the exchange, and he can create some threat against e6 or the c4 pawn. So it maybe black should not allow this actually. Then it's not so easy. After king d2, maybe you should not put the bishop on b1, but it's hard
to make progress.
It's hard to. But you can actually, it's maybe clever to play a move like bishop f5 instead, with the same idea, to play rook a3 to b3, but not giving white the option of sacrificing the exchange. This and bishop f5 looks, and if you play h3, now I can make your move h5. So I secure the bishop on f5, and now my idea is rook a3, rook b3, and rook b1.
This actually looks quite convincing.
Rook b4 was played, and I guess he can defend the pawn. He can defend the pawn first with rook a4, because I don't believe that white can exchange this rook, because then if you're gonna sacrifice the exchange, you need to have one rook on the board
to create counterplay or to.
But I think Valsecchi will win. But if he plays bishop b1 and allows this, then there's a chance.
Good chances for it, yeah. Meanwhile, I'm curious if on board 3, if maybe they have already agreed a draw, or if white is really still thinking, because they have repeated twice already. So after queen b1, white played king e5.
So can he already claim a draw?
No, I don't think so. I think after king e5 it will be 3 times. But white has already been thinking for over 10 minutes. But maybe he is considering something like king g4 actually.
But I don't think anyone will claim a draw actually, because both players want the other player to
be the one
who steps aside, so they will just agree to a draw rather than claiming the draw.
Okay, I'll keep an eye on this. Let's go back to the other 3 games that we were looking at.
Yeah.
So one of them, what were they? Let's go down.
Johan Salomon.
Let's have a look at all of them. All 3 games that are still remaining.
Yeah, so he's the one who's pushing for a win, but his king is still never completely safe. Bishop e8. And this is the position, and white is thinking. Okay. So somehow I want to find a better square for my queen. Queen e3 looks like the most natural move. Because I have a feeling that black will be forced to take a g5 at some point. Maybe not immediately, but you can start with. What do you start with here? Queen d8 would be a mistake, actually.
Because
I have bishop. Oh no, it's okay. I thought I had bishop takes f3, but you can take with the check. What do you do? Queen e3. If you take with the queen. I want to take on h5.
And you can't even defend it. Yeah? Okay.
Maybe you can. Maybe you win like. Maybe you can defend it somehow. Like queen e6, for example.
And the draw has been agreed on board 3.
Okay, board 3. Yeah. That means.
Maybe let's just have a quick look at the standings.
How do we?
He's the sole leader.
Yeah. So Nabate will be the sole leader, and he will probably play white against
Kobalia.
Kobalia tomorrow.
So who is even on 5.5?
Yeah.
So
We have Kartikeyan.
A1 Liang, Lagarde, Gopal, Donchenko, Kobalia.
Not Donchenko. Donchenko is on 5 points.
Ah, yeah. Sorry.
But Kobalia, Kartikeyan, and maybe Valsecchi and
Tiger
as well.
So a big group. I lost count of how many they
Yeah,
even
yeah.
were, but 5-6 players are chasing.
And if you are shared on the same point, you have some. Is it your opponent's collected points or something?
I don't actually know what.
It should be good to be in the top
Yeah.
all tournament. That means Tiger has probably not the best best chances among the 5.5 pointers.
I think what we're going to do, let's just evaluate the remaining positions. Let's start with this one we're looking at the moment, Salomon. So knight h3 is on the board.
Yeah, he wants to play knight f4. I would say that white have quite good chances of saving the game because this king is the king is too weak. There is so many. There's many things to keep under control here. You want to protect both pawns, and they cannot really go forward that easily. This bishops, and white's king is much safer, and there's some attacking possibilities with knight f4 or knight g5, and the queen can also find some squares like e4. Or and it's not even completely safe that black cannot lose this game. But objectively, it should be black.
So you're gonna predict a draw?
Yes, I'm gonna actually predict a draw, even though I believe that black is clearly better, if you objectively speaking. But it's quite difficult to play this over the board. Now after queen d8, if I go something like queen e3. I would almost, with little time, if they are down to like 3 minutes, I would actually take white in a game, just in order to create some threats.
Chances, yeah. Okay, so let's move on. I'm also with you. I will also predict a draw in this game. I think we should finish with Valsecchi, but let's first check the other 2 games that are still going.
Smas, yes, queen b8, c4, and when does the Blitz tournament start? It's something 8:30. So so he will probably be in time.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to think about it right now, maybe. But okay,
I guess first he should focus on winning this game.
Yeah.
I guess. So the first question is, if I play bishop g6,
bishop g6.
how is that?
Yes.
Do I want to exchange bishops, or do
You are forced to exchange.
No, but if I'm black.
Uh-huh.
But I guess bishop g6 might be forced anyway.
Or maybe it's not forced. Maybe you can sacrifice this pawn on h. I want to play a4.
Because so let's go back one move.
But the problem is that this pawn is not actually queening because of the queen takes h7. If I push a3, the king is pretty safe, but the problem is queen a7, and I cannot defend the a3 pawn.
But can we just go back to queen d6? Because actually white could have...
It could have played...
I know, but then d5 was hanging. Okay.
But I believe he's still a pawn up, yes. Yeah, I believe he will play bishop g6 anyway. And let's say queen to e3. What do you do now? Maybe now you push actually. This is quite clever, I guess, because the problem is let's say I do a waiting move now, I can actually push a3 in this position, because when you take, I take, and after queen takes a3, maybe I have this move g5, or this is at least the idea. That's something with g5.
But what will you do if I just defend with queen e3 or something?
I thought
Because suddenly pawns are equal.
But a4 is a good start anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know what white is doing. Let's say he's taking now. Now I'm threatening to play g5. So you have to move the king. Therefore, maybe you move the king now after a4. Let's say king, or you can play h4 or something also. But bishop g6 is the move. Queen a3, and then I guess a4. But you can also
improve the queen first. Maybe?
Do we? Are we winning
what is
the
happening?
king?
Yeah, I was
the
just
king
wondering.
endgame.
It must be winning.
It must be winning. Yes. Yes, the king endgame is winning. Therefore, you must move the queen after queen e7.
But
then
we can
then
maybe
it's
even take on d3
yeah.
and come into e1.
And then it's really oh, you have to play queen d2 maybe. But
So what happens if I take?
Yeah, you can take.
And queen e1.
Queen 1. Go up.
It just
Not
looks like we're controlling so many squares. I will just simply maybe put the king to g7 after.
Yeah, but you have to. I mean, white also
okay,
have a pawn on
that is a good
on
point.
d6.
Yeah.
So I'm not.
It's true.
But actually, I don't know. Maybe you can also keep the bishops now, because now you somehow your position improved, because you defended h7 and you got rid of the queen from the e file.
Yeah.
So like at this moment you can also go back to e8 and later push with a4, and you have some checks on g7 also. My prediction is that Sebastian will win this game.
My prediction too, but it will take some work. This will
Yes.
go on for quite a while longer. And finally, let's see Kaido.
Kaido Kulouts, yes. Queen e8 check. Okay, so
They
white
have been repeating. I think they're
Yeah,
about to
yeah.
agree a draw.
white is forced
Yeah.
to repeat also because he's down a pawn.
Yeah.
And his king is also weak, so this game will
And then a draw.
end in a draw.
Okay, so
is your-
final look at
Valsecchi.
Valsecchi before we wrap up for today.
So we see that he didn't put this bishop on b1, but he's using this idea. But you have to move the bishop once, or maybe not. But then I predict that he will win. If white could manage to sacrifice this exchange, I would actually maybe predict a draw, even though it's close to lost anyway. But now it's definitely lost, I would say. White
So can you show the winning plan one more time?
I play. But okay. So it's not so easy to play.
Yeah, because I was wondering how you're
Then I-
gonna achieve.
I start with g4 as white, just to take away like a square on f5, and I want to play with h4 or h3.
So you're saying if I play rook b1 now, bishop b1, you're going to sack?
Yeah, or yes. Now I mean.
Because I guess I'm
Now you're
threatening
you're threatening
b3.
rook b3, so now I'm forced to sacrifice, and we get this position. But
I
maybe
play rook
maybe
a2 now,
yeah,
and
rook a2.
rooks are very active.
And I go h4.
And rook either
But
g2 or rook g2 maybe? Rook h2.
Maybe you want to exchange a rook also. I mean like rook a1. But then I'm going like rook b6 or rook b4. But you can play like
Can I play
can play like this, and after let's say h4, I go rook h2, and let's say h5. I can come to a2. And this may be some forced win.
Because the king is very weak, actually.
But it seems like white will be able to sacrifice the exchange. So this moment may be important. What are you gonna do now? Because you have to. Both players are like preparing for this sacrifice. So black wants to find a better square for his king. So he's waiting a little bit now. Like he's not gonna play bishop b1 in the next move. He wants to improve his position. Like king g6, maybe play h5. And
actually, white just played bishop c5.
yeah, and you.
So.
Is gonna go to.
What's happening if I take on c3?
He played bishop c5. Yeah. You have to take. Can you take on a2?
I was wondering.
You cannot take on
But
a2.
I have bishop b1 in the end, yeah?
Yeah, and you have a check on d3. I mean, you would.
Otherwise.
But you can play king d4. And after rook d3, you can take on c4. And white escapes somehow. So maybe bishop c5 was playable. And if you go like rook a5, you are forced to go back, because if king d4, you have rook d8, and you cannot bishop b4. You cannot drop this e5 pawn, so you must go back. But then
we can try.
But white succeeded to stop rook b3.
That's true.
But you can still get the same position if you play bishop b1. So maybe it doesn't change much. You can, but he will start with something like king g6 here, and then play like h5. If black can do whatever he wants now, if white is just waiting, maybe he wants to enter with the king or play like king to h3 before bishop b1.
I'm gonna predict a black win for this one.
Yeah.
Because black has time, he can take his time and figure out a winning plan.
White
doesn't have anything active.
White has less time, only 8 minutes against 19.
So I guess that wraps up today's show. We're gonna show you the results on top one last time. A big win for Nabati with the black pieces against Rajewski. So he is now the sole tournament leader on 6 out of 7. Most likely he will be facing second seed Kobalia tomorrow. So that's another great day of chess to look forward to. We'll start at the usual time, 3 p.m. Central European time, which is the local time here in Stockholm. So thank you very much for watching today. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you to our audience here in the room as well. And we'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Good night. Bye-bye.